Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 87 of the Liberator podcast. I'm here with Sonia Canella on her birthday, April 5th.
Happy birthday to me. What better way to spend it?
Yeah. So we're really excited to celebrate it here, doing an episode of the Liberator podcast, and I've got Rachel Berkey here as well. And today we are going to be talking about a little bit of controversy that stemmed from an episode that we did back in January with David Lowe, who was running for House District 91 in Texas. Now, on that podcast, he said, I'm an abolitionist. I'm going to completely abolish it. I'm not going to support the regulation of abortion. And he actually said in the podcast, it was really funny, he said, yeah, I bet my opponent is going to try to clip some stuff out of this and use it against me. And
here we are.
Here we are.
Lo and behold.
That's exactly what happened. And so we're going to be responding to Texas Right to Life, taking a clip of the Liberator podcast and using it to say that people should vote against David Lowe. Now, I want to start off with a clarification or maybe an explanation of why the title is kind of as harsh and as abrasive as it is, because we recognize that is a harsh title. Texas Right to Life is why babies are still murdered here. There's a bill to abolish abortion in Texas. There are a number of legislators who have put their name onto that bill, and that bill was killed by a chairwoman who said, nope, we're not going to abolish abortion. We're going to regulate abortion in this way, and this way, and this way. That chairwoman is Stephanie Klick. Texas Right to Life is rallying around Stephanie Klick. In this article that we're gonna get into, they call her a pro-life hero over and over and over. Now, people like Stephanie Klick would not be able to get away with this if all the Christians in Texas said, you're the reason abortion's legal. But because there are lots of Christians and people in Texas who want abortion to be abolished, who look to Texas Right to Life without thinking too closely about what they're supporting, and they see Texas Right to Life saying she's a pro-life hero, they think she's a pro-life hero, right? And so people get away with this. Politicians who keep abortion legal are only able to get away with it because of groups like Texas Right to Life. And this is what's happening in Oklahoma and Missouri. We've seen politician after politician kill bills to abolish abortion and be rewarded for it. And so that's why this is as harsh as it is. And so, yeah, and it's not as if they haven't had chances to come around. It's not as if we haven't talked to Texas Right to Life.
Yeah, in 2017 and 2018, Texas abolitionists had been actively having conversations with Texas Right to Life, with folks there, trying to get them to come around, explaining and answering questions about abolitionism, trying to be able to bring them to a place where we could work together to actually abolish abortion in Texas. So this we're not like bringing this to you as if there's no history here, because there's a lot of history.
Yeah.
And we're going to make this case. And I think you'll see by the end of the episode why this title, as harsh as it is very accurate, sadly.
Yep. So they had a chance to come around. Yeah. There was years of trying to come to the table and reason with them, but they are still actively endorsing legislators who keep abortion legal, and so that's a problem. And yes. so let's get into what they're doing. The article they wrote, the video that they posted. So this article is posted on the Texas Right to Life PAC website. It is entitled, "Republican Candidate Brags He'll Vote No to Any Pro-Life Bill." This is talking about David Lowe, and the featured image is David Lowe sitting in this seat right here with this background behind him. And so they make a few different arguments in this article. One of the first things they do, they write, on his website, Lowe states, the recent pro-life bills passed by our state legislature have not ended abortion and most likely will not. It is far past time for Texans to act. Objectively true. But here's what they say about it. While there is still work to be done to save every preborn child from abortion from the moment of fertilization, to assert that the Texas Heartbeat Act is not stopping abortions or saving lives is blatantly false. And what's blatantly false is what you're saying about what he said. He's not saying he didn't save lives. Now, I think the amount of lives that are saved by the Heartbeat Bill has been greatly, greatly exaggerated. And we see that both from the rise in self-managed abortions and in the rise in the parking lots here in Oklahoma and elsewhere that are overflowing.
Absolutely.
But in any case, even if any lives were saved, praise the Lord for that. But he's not saying lives weren't saved. He's saying abortion did not end. Abortion was not abolished in Texas, which, again, objectively true. And what the kicker there is they had the bill to do it. They had the bill to do it. They had a pro-life supermajority, and they chose, nope, we're not going to abolish abortion. We're gonna do these bills over here. And so this is dishonest. Again, they say Lowe's saying something blatantly false. What they're saying is blatantly false. So that's a really, really frustrating thing to see from Texas Right to Life.
It's weird to see, like, they quote Lowe, and then they say something that he's saying that they didn't say in the quote. How do you lie that blatantly in an article?
Yeah, it's right there.
I don't know. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
But if anyone's reading the article and they're reading it and they're paying attention, they're seeing, oh, actually, Texas Right to Life is actually lying about what David Lowe said here in their article about him. In their article, like lashing out at David Lowe.
Yeah, their commentary has nothing to do with the quote.
Right.
It's like, it's just pretty. Even to people who maybe more of the mind of supporting Texas Right to Life's position, you've got to see that that's very dishonest what they're doing right there. One of the encouraging things in the comments of the post that Texas Right to Life made on their Facebook page, there were names, like obviously there's a lot of abolitionists on there who I recognized, like saying, no, this is wrong. Here's why. Here's what David Lowe actually said. But there's lots of names. I had no idea who they were. And I clicked on them. They're just people from Texas who I had 2 or 3 mutual friends with. But lots and lots of people who as far as I'm aware, are not that connected to the movement. We're seeing, no, this is wrong. Here's what he was actually saying.
Yeah.
So that was really encouraging to see. So the next thing they did after that kind of straw man that they set up against him is they showed the clip that they clipped from our podcast. So let's watch that real quick.
At the end of the day, I kept reading and doing my research, and it makes so much sense. Yeah. To the point where I told Pastor John Speed, I'm willing to stand on the House floor and vote no to any pro-life bill. The only thing we need to do is abolish abortion.
Amen.
Period. And honestly, I'm a partisan, right? I'm a Republican. I'm a conservative Republican. Yeah. And we have the majority, and we've had the majority for 20 years in Texas. Yeah. There shouldn't be a single thing we don't get passed. So if you're trying to regulate abortion instead of abolish abortion, you're not thinking about the little babies that are being murdered.
Maybe the Republican majority is the Republican majority because a lot of those people run on pro-life platforms.
Yeah.
You beat the guy that's not pro-life, you beat the lady that's not pro-life. Well, what if you do away with abortion? How do you beat that person? See, it's a political thing. There's a money thing, there's a political thing. Texas, could have abolished abortion 30 years ago.
I kept thinking that they were going to cut it right there, like at multiple points. And I just watching it again, I forgot that they included that much information.
Yeah.
Like,
I actually really appreciate that. They didn't take it out of context. They showed his whole thing, and praise the Lord. I think anyone who sees that will think, why did the Republican majority not abolish abortion?
Yes.
Exactly, yeah.
Who do they think that's going to persuade?
And he's talking about the research that he's been doing and like his conversation with Pastor Speed. And I'm like, if I didn't know anything about abolitionism, I would listen to that and be like, hang on, what's he saying here? And I would want to go and like find the whole podcast. Yeah. Which fortunately a lot of people were sharing in the comments. So hopefully more people did go and watch that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that was good.
Yeah, this only has, I think, last I checked, 84 views. And I hope it gets way, way, way more views than that, because this is an excellent campaign ad for David Lowe.
That's what I was thinking. Like, let's let a lot of people see that, because it's actually good.
Great.
Yeah, it's a good clip.
He just wants to abolish abortion.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself.
Do our work for us. Yeah.
Thank you, Texas Right to Life.
Yes, thank you for clipping that, for getting that out there. And getting more eyes on it. And people are going from there to, like you said, from there to our podcast, learning more about abolitionism. And so, I actually, while there's a lot in the article to be upset with, and their interpretation of that clip is pretty messed up, the fact that clip is out there, I'm very glad for. I think that will help.
So
David Lowe.
Yeah. So Texas Right to Life's commentary on the video clip, they say, if elected, Lowe pledged he is willing to stand on the House floor and vote no to any pro-life bill. He claims the only thing we need to do is ignore Roe versus Wade, a strategy he claims will end abortion. Lowe's prideful unwillingness to vote for any bill that will immediately save lives from abortion while attacking Roe versus Wade is dangerous for preborn Texans.
But keeping abortion legal is not dangerous for preborn Texans.
What?
What sticks out to me there is the prideful unwillingness. And I don't know why pro-lifers, I guess I do know why, but it's very annoying when pro-lifers always attribute embrace of abolitionism to, that person just being prideful, they're trying to be holier than thou, saying, well, I don't want to, I want to be more righteous than you, therefore I won't support all these bills. It's got nothing to do with that, right? It's got to do with a desire to obey what God says about abortion, support laws that are consistent with what God says about abortion, and it's a desire to see all preborn children saved. There's no good reason that would not happen 4 years ago, the first time a bill was put forward in Texas. There's no reason that bill would not have passed in Texas, except that groups like Texas Right to Life oppose it, and their allies like Stephanie Klick oppose it. That's why it continues, and that's not prideful of us to say. That's because we're trying to obey God and rescue children. So that's very frustrating that they always attribute that, and that's not just them. That's what you hear from pro-life leaders at large. Is abolitionists are just being so prideful, self-righteous, all that stuff. It's got nothing to do with that.
And part of the reason that they are continuing to do that is because they're continuing to say this is just a difference in political strategy. Right? Yes. You just think your strategy is better than ours. And if that was true, if that wasn't a misrepresentation of abolitionists, then calling us arrogant would be accurate. But this isn't just a difference of political strategy. Abolitionists aren't saying our strategy is just better than yours. That's not what this comes down to. That is a misrepresentation. And if you're lying about that, about what we're saying and believing, then you can make this type of accusation that is not true.
Yeah. And I get the feeling that a lot of probably Texans in particular who may not be so familiar with our podcast or with abolitionism as distinct from pro-lifeism. And so if that fits you, I would highly encourage you after this episode to go back and watch episode 4, The Biblical Arguments for Abolitionism, and episode 62, The 5 Tenets of Abolitionism, because I think those will give you a real good overview of the kind of theology that undergirds the legislation that we support, because it's deeper, like you said, it's deeper than political strategy. It's deeper than bills. Bills are a big part of the movement because we are a political movement, but there's a theology that is at the foundation of everything that we do. And so we highly recommend, going back and watching those.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think what I also appreciate about this is, again, David was very articulate in stating the case of why he's doing that. And he does say that he's willing to stand on the House floor and vote no to any pro-life bill, which is what we want him to do. Yes. We want him to stand there and educate those who are watching that maybe don't understand. He understands that the pro-life bills are not protecting all children, that it's allowing some murder, and these bills are iniquitous. There's no way around it. It's still doing evil. Yep. And there's been much conversation about this, but I just love that he wants to stand on the floor and do that. He doesn't want to go with the multitude to do evil. He doesn't say on one hand that, abortion is murder and that none should be murdered and we need to protect all children, because really the only children that are unprotected right now are the ones who women are allowed to make the decision whether they get to live or die. And so we have on the one hand that standing and saying, like, no, all babies should have equal rights and protection under the law. But I'm going to go ahead and go along with you and sign off on these other things because maybe it'll save some lives. It really undercuts the whole position. And so for him to stand on the House floor and to advocate for all children and to express why he's voting no, not to just go vote no, sit quietly and nobody knows what's going on, but to actually make the case is really huge. And of course, that's not what they're going to want there. What they want is people to agree that it's a different strategy. And you can say that you want complete abolition. Of course, they'll say we all want that, but right now this is the best we can do. And so there's this pragmatic action still happening and trying to draw him off. So to say that he said that didn't express the fullness of what he was saying, which I think he articulated well, is that we want equal protection for all and that actually we have the ability to do it. So there's no reason to do anything else.
There's lots of aspects of getting an abolitionist elected that's very exciting. In this case, right, you have someone else to put their name on the abolition bill. You're unseating someone like Stephanie Klick, who killed the abolition bill. But another is what you mentioned, seeing him on the floor of the Texas House saying, no, this is absurd. We have all these pro-lifers in this body right now. Why is abortion still continuing in Texas? Why have we not passed, HB 3326 or whatever the number on the bill is in 2023? Seeing that, man, that's going to be amazing.
That'll be
because
awesome.
seeing Warren Hamilton do that earlier this year, he did a really good job.
Yeah.
Yes. John Jacob does it in Indiana. And just having someone else to do that, to call their colleagues to a higher standard, to say that these bills are not just, they are not rescuing all preborn children, and that's what our duty is before God.
Yes.
And having someone like David in there, again, that would be such an amazing thing to do. And so again, the fact that he will be willing to stand on the House floor and vote no to any pro-life bill is why we endorse him completely and ask you all to support David as well.
Yeah.
So I'll just do this. Remind no Sam this week, so this is for me. Remind myself to put David. I think DavidLowe4Texas.com is, I believe, his website. So go there, learn about him, support him if you can. All that good stuff.
So something interesting here, and I think a little bit hypocritical of Texas Right to Life, is so they're saying here that Lowe is willing to stand on the House floor and vote no to any pro-life bill, and they're saying this as if they would support every pro-life thing, but they don't. And an example of that is HB 1280 last May. It was a trigger bill, and that bill would have whenever or if the Supreme Court would have overturned Roe, then Texas would return to pre-Roe law. And we know there are problems with that. That's not what we're going for. That's part of the reason why we got Roe versus Wade in the first place. But it's a pro-life bill, and Brian Slayton put forward an amendment to this trigger bill saying, well, let's just not wait on the courts. Let's go back to pre-Roe law
immediately.
Right now.
Yep.
Why not? And Texas Right to Life, as well as other Texas pro-life groups, came out swinging against this amendment. And obviously, I think I mentioned this before, that's not what we're looking for, but it's just it's another pro-life option, right?
Yeah, it would have improved a pro-life bill. Yeah.
Right. And Texas Alliance for Life said, they tweeted, "We oppose the Slayton Amendment and encourage the members to vote no on it." And I had actually multiple screenshots here. Texas Right to Life, I had the wrong one there. Texas Right to Life says, "We are supportive of any amendments supported by the author and will negatively score any amendment not acceptable to the author. Amendment 1, which was Slayton's amendment, Amendment 1 is not acceptable to the author of Texas Right to Life." So if you supported Slayton's amendment to ignore the courts, you would get a negative score. And if you're a Democrat who's in opposition to all of this, you'll get a better score by Texas Right to Life. So they're saying this, they're like saying this type of thing about David Lowe as if they support every pro-life thing, support every strong pro-life bill. That's not the case. They're not. This is an example where they were in opposition of a stronger pro-life bill,
right?
Not just in opposition to abolition.
Yeah. We catch a lot of flack for Free the States in particular, but also abolitionists more broadly for opposing the pro-life movement and pro-life bills and certain pro-life organizations. But it's not as if we're the only ones who are opposing that. Like, they oppose, not, of course, abolition bills, because they don't support equal protection, they don't support ignoring Roe, but they even just support a slight strengthening of a pro-life bill, right?
Yeah.
Everything. It's such a weak movement. The bills they support are really, really weak, and any attempt to many attempts to strengthen them go opposed by the pro-life organizations. And yeah, like you said, it's pretty hypocritical for them to pretend they're the only ones who are being opposed by us instead of they're also opposing the stuff that we would do.
Yeah, moving right along with this article, another point that we want to focus on here. It says that during the campaign, Lowe also misrepresented incumbent Stephanie Klick. So they're claiming misrepresentation of Stephanie Klick. Even before she was elected to the Texas House, Klick fought to protect vulnerable patients in Texas hospitals. Since her election in the Texas House in 2013, she has repeatedly fought to protect preborn children and their mothers from abortion. And they cite that in 2017, Klick passed the Dismemberment Abortion Ban, a law that prohibits the barbaric and inhumane abortion method, which ends the lives of preborn children by removing their limbs while their hearts are still beating.
So Stephanie Klick is a pro-life hero because, why? Because in 2017, the year that the first abolition bill was put forward, instead of supporting that, she supported the Dismemberment Abortion Ban. So what did that bill do? That bill said that you can't dismember a child with forceps if they're alive. Now, you can dismember a child with forceps if they're not alive. So you can kill them by poisonous injection and then dismember them with forceps, or you can dismember them with something else. You just can't use forceps to do it, right? And so that's this bill that they're saying she's a pro-life hero because she did this.
Yes, and I remember I was there during that time when the abolition bill was being brought forth, going to many committee hearings and testifying, and I remembered learning that this is what they were all voting for, this dismemberment abortion ban. And my encouragement to anyone, just as we've been talking about this, other parts of this article, is that research and read for yourself what the bill actually says. And when I read what the bill actually said, what the author's intent was, the intent was not to prevent any woman from having an abortion. It was simply this, was preventing these barbaric, inhumane abortion methods, which, they're saying these limbs are being removed while the heart's still beating. And so what they were really advocating for is that the baby was dead. It had to be murdered first before it could be dismembered. And this was being talked about as pro-life. It was fought for in the courts when the reproductive rights folks come up in arms about how, it's a necessary burden on women, and to add an extra step before this child was dismembered, and that it was, medical practice to do it this way. And the Attorney General's representatives were essentially saying this, that, they're trying to do something that's humane, so the babies aren't being ripped apart alive. Yeah, no, I think it's important to get to that testimony that happened in court. So this is Texas State Attorney Darren McCarty. As a Texas State Attorney, he's going to be very pro-life. He's going to have his job at the appointment of either the governor or the Attorney General. He works for the Attorney General. And so here is what he says about the Dismemberment Abortion Ban, which was also SB 8 back in 2017. Correct.
So SB 8 is a measured piece of legislation that does not require, nor is it intended to create a substantial obstacle to second trimester abortion. It's not even that it prevents abortion. It doesn't even provide an obstacle to abortion. Mm-hmm. In fact, the plaintiffs, the abortion supporters, have not presented any evidence in the record that SB 8 would bar a single woman in Texas from receiving an abortion. Not one. SB 8 is designed to do one thing and one thing only, and that is to end the particularly brutal, gruesome, and inhumane practice of killing a second trimester, essentially fully formed fetus by tearing it apart limb from limb. Here's the best part. SB 8 reflects the ethos of a humane and civilized society. It would require one thing, a humane termination of an unborn child's life before it is dismembered and evacuated.
Unreal.
Humane termination. Dwell on that, those two words being used in collaboration with one another by a pro-life attorney arguing in court. Humane termination. So humane societies, he's saying, they, before executing children, they make sure that the child is already dead before the more painful part happens. That's what humane societies look like.
Well, to make sure they're dead before you, what do they call that when you dismember a corpse? There's a legal term for that. I can't think of it right now. So basically, you got to kill it first, and then you can. So we can't dig a body up out of a grave and pull it apart without a crime.
Yeah.
It's desecrating a corpse.
Yeah.
So they're not only saying humane as if it's a puppy dog, which is not made in the image of God, and we're just humanely terminating it. It's an innocent child in the womb who they are saying somehow we are a humane society because we make sure it's dead first before we dismember it, unlike those inhumane, barbaric people who are making sure it happens while they're alive. But it can still happen. We're not trying to stop anyone from exercising any right to kill these babies. We just don't want it to be that way.
I was told because I supported the dismemberment abortion ban in Ohio, I was told that that bill would it would teach people that abortion dismembers a baby, and then I heard so a friend of mine who worked at a pregnancy resource center, she was walking through the different types of abortion, and explained to the person in front of her considering abortion, explained to this mom that. All the different ways that abortion will murder her baby, and that it was murder. My friend was very, very direct, very good at her job, and the woman is sits there crying, and she understands all the different abortion procedures, and she's like, okay, I think I'm going to do the pill then. Yeah, that's. If you're what we're doing here and reading this, both in the article and Attorney McCarty, what we're teaching the culture is that there is a barbaric and inhumane way to murder your baby. No, it's all wrong.
Yes,
it's all
barbaric and inhumane.
There is no humane society that murders their babies. That's not a thing. Don't teach that.
What I also see it teaching is, so after this, we're going back and we're trying to make sure that abolishing abortion remains the Republican priority on the platforms. And so we're at the RPT in Texas, and I'm just talking with people. I'm like, so you heard about the dismemberment abortion ban, right? Yeah, it's pro-life victory. And I'm like, yeah, so what does that mean to you when you hear dismemberment ban? Well, they banned dismemberments, right? Right. That's what I think the header is supposed to want us to think. But have you read the bill? Do you know what it actually did? Well, no, I haven't. And so then I would try to explain to them, this is what happened, what you just read there and we were sharing. Yeah. And they would still look at me kind of quizzically, but it saves lives, right? So there's like this cognitive dissonance going on, because they're thinking these are people who are fighting to end abortion, and we're supporting them. We're coming to these these meetings to try to get this thing as a priority. We want abortion abolished. They're saying they're banning stuff. It's no different. And I think it was 2007 when I read about the partial birth abortion ban, because they didn't want live births. So we're going to have this ban, but it didn't actually ban any murder of late term babies. It just, the NARAL was just setting up to train their abortionists how to get around the ban by injecting the babies and killing them first before they aborted them. And so the babies were still dying, but we had a ban and we were celebrating victories. And it's just, what I've seen is it just goes on and on. It's just different terminology, wordsmithing to make it seem like we're doing something that we're not. And it's disturbing.
One other point to make on the dismemberment ban is how well it represents the futility of refusing to ignore Roe. So this bill, it passes, it's signed into law. The Texas attorney goes to court and says this bill isn't going to stop any abortions whatsoever. It provides no undue burden on someone's right to have an abortion. It doesn't do anything to even put an obstacle in the way, and it's still struck down. Right? This bill does absolutely nothing, and the courts still say, or it's gone back and forth. Kind of, they've the first court said it's unconstitutional. Then another court upholds it. Then the next court, it keeps getting appealed up and going back and forth. But this thing keeps getting struck down by various courts, even though it does nothing. And so you have to ignore Roe. If you're not willing to ignore Roe, you have to be content for the very real possibility of another 100 years of child sacrifice in pro-life states like Texas and Oklahoma. You have to ignore Roe, or else we're not going to get very far. And that is kind of the crux of the disagreement. There's others too. Equal protection is another disagreement between us and right to life. But that is one of the big ones. We're willing to ignore Roe. They're not. And that's why their strategy is completely futile, and that's why it hasn't worked, because they're not willing to do that.
And again, they don't even, it's in the open. Like Rachel was talking about earlier, they say very, very right here themselves, what they consider barbaric and inhumane is removing limbs while the heart's still beating. If we just take a moment and we stop and we let that sink in, and you think, I'm pro-life, I'm for life, I want abortion to end, it's a horrible, barbaric thing. So does that mean not removing their limbs while their heart's still beating? So we can still remove their limbs, but it just can't be while their heart's beating. Heart beating is not the value of a child. Yeah. And it's not okay to rip limbs off whether their heart's beating or not. And so they're saying themselves in their own article, they're showing that what they're actually doing in this dismemberment ban, but using really emotional, strong words like barbaric and inhumane kind of gets us stuck on that. Like, oh yeah, we don't want that, and then we kind of miss like the punchline at the end. And so
it's not as if they don't. Hidden. It's not as if they don't know the content of that bill. They know it doesn't do anything to stop abortion, but they know that most of the readers aren't going to know that. And so they're just going to, but it's not as if Texas Right to Life doesn't know that the bill doesn't do anything. Yeah. And they're still using it to say Stephanie Klick is a pro-life hero. Mm-hmm. So let's get back to the article and what else they have to say about Stephanie Klick. They write, Klick was appointed as chair of the House Public Health Committee in the 87th legislature, a role which she stewarded well. As chairwoman, Klick passed every pro-life priority bill out of her committee, including the Texas Heartbeat Act, and passed a bill twice that would have abolished abortion, the first time any House committee chair has ever had such an accomplishment. So we began this podcast talking about one lie that they told, that David Lowe, they twisted his words very, very egregiously. And then here they're saying she passed a bill twice that would have abolished abortion. She did no such thing. What she did is she passed the Texas Abolition strategy. Now this is it's a trigger bill. It basically I think in year one, it would put into law a ban on abortions because the child had Down syndrome, and then a bit down the line, it would trigger a heartbeat bill, and then a bit down the line, it would trigger a trigger bill. So if Roe is overturned, then we can go back to pre-Roe Texas law. So it's basically just a trigger bill. This is not an abolition bill, but Texas abolitionists are gaining so much ground in Texas. They changed the Republican Party platform. Their hearings on abolition bills go till 3 a.m. because there's so many abolitionists. There's so much ground being gained that they want to pretend that they're abolitionists. And so they're calling their bill the Texas Abolition Strategy so that they can say, look, we're in line with the Republican Party platform, where we're doing everything that the people are asking us to do. We're abolitionists, but they're not. This bill is not a bill to abolish abortion. But they just call it that so that they can say Stephanie Klick's a pro-life hero, and so that they can help her ward off the attacks of the abolitionists. So that's the first problem with this, is that they're straight up lying and saying this bill would have abolished abortion when it would not have.
Yeah. They also point out that Stephanie Klick passed every pro-life priority bill out of her committee. And we've seen this in other places, but when you have, like in states like Oklahoma and Texas, where there's been an abolition bill before, they know that they're going to get slack for killing the abolition bill. What they do is they pile all the pro-life bills in that one committee that they put the abolition bill in. So Stephanie Klick passes all the pro-life bills, and she can be praised for that as a pro-life hero. Yeah. And like they call her in this article, and to give her cover for killing the bill that would have abolished abortion in Texas.
Yep. In Oklahoma, it was the Senate HHS committee chaired by Greg McCourtney. He voted down and killed the bill that would have abolished abortion, but on the same day, they passed 6 pro-life bills. So on the day that they kept abortion legal in Oklahoma, they were able to send out a press release saying what an amazing day it was for preborn children in the state of Oklahoma. That's the game here. And that's why this podcast is titled what it is. Abortion remains legal because the people who purport to fight abortion are the ones keeping it legal and providing cover to the politicians who are keeping abortion legal. And that is the game that's being played, and people need to see that and understand that.
That stood out to me also when I looked at that they're saying that Chairwoman Klick passed every pro-life priority bill out of her committee. They're pro-life priority bills. They're not Republican Party priority bills or the will of the people who want abolition. They're the pro-life priorities. And we've seen this over and over. In Texas, there's committee hearings, and you come in and try to speak that I'm voting no for this bill because you have a bill of abolition and we want to see all babies protected. And there would be interesting, responses to a lot of that. And I think overall, with a lot of what I'm seeing here is that throughout this whole article, and as we've been talking, this one proverb keeps coming to mind. In Proverbs 18:17, it says, the one, who states his case first. Sorry, I still have a little frog in my throat. The one who states his case first seems right until another comes and examines him. So that's what I find really interesting about this is if we're not examining it, we just take it by the first one who states his case, it seems right. If you're not really thinking that there's any reason to cross-examine it. So part of my encouragement as I see these things, as I've begun to read and investigate and learn, is to cross-examine, like to examine these things for yourself and see what's true. Don't just take our word for it. Everything that you need to know is available. It's just a matter of digging around, and if you don't know where to start, ask any of us or any of those in Texas that have been involved, and they're happy to point you to the truth. And I'm very thankful for the abolitionists that are getting on there and commenting to what's happening. So
that has to feel like a slap in the face, for people like you who worked really hard to change the Republican Party platform, right? To make it call for abolition, and then to see groups like Texas Right to Life and Texas Alliance for Life just change the meaning of the word abolition and say that, look, we're abolitionists too, we're abolishing abortion.
Yes.
It's really, really dishonest what they're doing. And they're doing it for a reason. It's not a mistake. They're not accidentally calling this what they're calling it. They've seen the ground that's gained. They've seen what the Republicans in Texas want, and they're trying to deceive those Texas Republicans into thinking that this is that, when it's not. That's not what the people who voted for that platform were voting for.
That's correct. And so, again, it just comes back to they're using the right buzzwords, but we need to look past the titles like of the bills or the words they're using to what they're actually doing, what's actually happening. And,
this is something I actually saw in the comments underneath Texas Right to Life's posts on Facebook, where there's all these people who I hadn't seen before. And there was one woman from Texas who said, after seeing this article, I'm redirecting my donation every month from Texas Right to Life to the David Lowe campaign.
Yes, she will should.
Yeah, and so it's like, that's what we need to see, because
Yes.
as you said, we can't just trust the pro-life groups.
Nope.
And fortunately, that they're getting more and more blatant about their opposition to abolition bills and abolitionist candidates. And as they are just plainly putting it out there, people need to see that. And then people need to help their friends and family see that.
Yes.
And so that groups like Texas Right to Life are no longer able to keep abortion legal as their supporters stop supporting them. Because that's what has to happen. Defunding Texas Right to Life would do more to abolish abortion in Texas than defunding Planned Parenthood would.
Amen.
And in Oklahoma, Planned Parenthood cannot keep abortion legal in Oklahoma or Texas. But you know who can? Texas Right to Life. You know who can? Oklahomans for Life. These are the groups who have the power in pro-life states to keep abortion legal. And so people need to, be aware of the bills they're supporting. Don't just trust, it says Dismemberment Abortion Ban, that must mean it's banning abortion. No, it's literally doing nothing. And you're being tricked and deceived into thinking that we're winning and we're saving babies when we're not. And so you got to look closely at the bills you support, at the organizations you support, and at the candidates that you support. Because they're going to say, David Lowe, he'll vote no to any pro-life bill. And there was a lot of encouraging comments, but there was also some people on there saying, he must be a Democrat then. Let's not, put him in the legislature. But it's like, no, that's not what's going on here. You need to look closely at what he said, look closely at what Right to Life is saying, see who's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what needs to happen.
Be discerning.
Yep.
And just another thing, just like looking at this article overall, I think that this is going to very much backfire on Texas Right to Life, on Stephanie Klick's campaign.
Yes.
And the reason for that is because of how far the paradigm in Texas has shifted. And that's a lesson to all of us. When we look at something like this, if the people in Texas know that pro-life is kind of a dirty word, we don't actually call ourselves that because we know what that means, and we're going to instead be abolitionists of abortion.
Exactly.
If the people, the people of God in Texas know that, then groups like Texas Right to Life won't get away with this.
Yep.
And that's why it's important to be working on shifting the paradigm. They're being deceptive in how they're going about fighting this. But one thing that they're not doing is saying David Lowe is an abortion abolitionist and we're pro-life because that hurts them. That paradigm shift that the abolitionists in Texas have been working on is very harmful to groups like Texas Right to Life.
Yep. So one last excerpt that we're going to read here toward the end of this article, one of the final sentences. They say, Texas Right to Life is disappointed in those who share some of our values and goals, but are slandering Stephanie Klick, who fearlessly and consistently defends the rights of the most vulnerable.
Wow.
Yeah. So
They're disappointed.
Yeah, we are so crushed by their disappointment.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and I don't think it's wrong to laugh here. I mean, Texas Right to Life, I'm sorry, but you have made yourself into a joke.
Yeah.
Like you have taken this to such a degree. Stephanie Klick kept abortion legal in Texas. She killed the bill that would have banned gender modification for children in Texas. She killed both those bills, but she's consistently and fearlessly defending the rights of the most vulnerable. You're a joke. I'm sorry, there's no other way around it. You're a joke. What you're doing is evil. What you're doing in this article is dishonest, and it really is. It's so outlandish. It's so insane that you are a joke, and people should laugh at you. They should laugh at you, and then they should stop supporting you in any way, shape, or form.
And they're saying they're disappointed in those who are slandering Stephanie Klick. What we've been doing, what David Lowe has been doing, is saying what Stephanie Klick has done.
Yes.
Yep.
You're slandering in this article.
Yep.
You are not telling the truth. We have not lied once about Stephanie Klick. If so, show us. What we've been doing is we've been proving evidence. We've been giving the bill numbers. We've been giving we've been showing you what bills she has killed.
Yep.
And what her record is.
Yeah, you can't argue that she did not kill HB 3326. She's argued publicly against it. She did not allow it to be voted on. Correct. She killed it. There's nothing dishonest about telling people that she is the one who killed that bill.
It sounds bad, yeah, because it is bad, but it's not slandering. Slandering isn't when something sounds bad that you're saying about something else, somebody else.
Yeah.
Slandering is being dishonest, is you're telling untruths about someone else.
Yep.
Well, you're kicking against the goads.
Yep.
Essentially.
Yep. That's what they're doing. The paradigm is shifting, and they are not shifting with it. They're digging their heels in deeper and deeper and deeper, and it's leading them to say more insane things.
There is one person who is fearlessly and consistently defending the rights of the most vulnerable and asking for accountability in his fight to win this race, too, and that's David Lowe.
Yep.
And as much as Texas Right to Life wants to appear as an abolitionist organization, they are actually anti-abolition.
Yep.
That's the truth.
Yep. No doubt about it. So as far as calls to action this week, typically we talk about either a conference coming up or ways people can be supporting our certain projects or ask for people to become monthly donors to our organization. And we are going to do that this week as well. We're going to ask for monthly donations, but there's kind of a kicker here for people in Texas who might be watching this and who might support Texas Right to Life. And that is, if that's you, you can become a donor to Free the States without losing any money, because hopefully you've already canceled your donation to Texas Right to Life by now. And with that money, you can become a monthly donor to Free the States, which does come with some perks. So the art we're giving away this month on the Liberator podcast is this Equal Rights for All People artwork. And this is the artwork that we made a sticker out of that is available on the Free the States store.freethestates.org. So we will be giving that out 3 weeks from now. Another perk, you get 50% off at the store if you are a monthly donor to Free the States. I know there's more perks. What are the other perks? Or is that all?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think we know a lot of our donors. I don't think a lot of people donate
sure
for the perks.
Yeah.
But that's a good thing, because I think when we draw names out of the bowl, we see this person is fighting really hard in North Carolina. This person is a longtime abolitionist who's on the streets today in Texas, and so you should donate, but you should also you better not end your action there. That's not what abolitionists do. Abolitionist is not just a belief, not just a moral position that we take for life. It's action. There are a lot of perks. Yeah, I forget if there are more. Sorry.
Time, talent, treasure for the kingdom, and justice for the preborn.
Yep. So there's lots of stuff that needs done. People need to be going out to the abortion mills. People need to be active at their state capitals, active in supporting groups like Free the States, other abolitionist groups in Texas like AATX. There's good groups that need supported. But another action point is making sure that you and your friends and family are not supporting groups like Texas Right to Life. That really is something that will go a long way toward passing a bill to abolish abortion, is getting these pro-life groups out of the way. So,
and if you're in Texas tonight and tomorrow and the next day, you can be a part of this conference that we're going to be at, Love of Truth Ministries, put on by Daryl Rodriguez, or organized, I guess. Love of Truth Ministries is the name of the organization.
Yep.
But our friend Daryl is putting on a conference
in San Antonio,
Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So when you're watching this, or when this podcast is live, it'll be today, tomorrow, the next day. So if you or anyone you know is in Texas or around San Antonio, anywhere, you should go check out Love of Truth Ministries and join us. It's a free conference, and a lot of good teaching and mission work on the streets, ministering to people who don't know the Lord.
Yep. So come see us in San Antonio. Make sure all your friends stop supporting Texas Right to Life. Go to freethestates.org/donate. Become a supporter of Free the States. And again, if this is new to you, if you're not familiar with the abolition versus pro-life distinction, please go back and watch episodes number 4 and 62. They will explain kind of why we believe what we believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's all for this week. This has been episode 87 of the Liberator podcast, and make sure to tune in next week. We're going to be talking to Matt Truella, who is the author of The Doctrine of the Lesser Magistrates.
Really looking forward to that one.
That'll be really good.
Yep. So please tune in then. That'll be next Thursday, 6 p.m. as always, where we will be as harsh as truth and as uncompromising as justice here on the Liberator podcast. We'll see you then.